Picture this scenario, because I guarantee you've lived some version of it. It's Sunday morning, you're scrolling through your bank account, and you see a balance higher than usual. Maybe it's a bonus, a tax refund, or you just had a good month. And instead of feeling secure, instead of feeling accomplished, you feel weird, almost uncomfortable. Within 72 hours, that money is gone. New shoes you didn't need, dinner at an expensive restaurant, a spontaneous purchase that you deserved. You tell yourself you're just treating yourself after working hard. But what if I told you that you're not rewarding yourself? You're punishing yourself for having too much. My name is Alex, and I spend way too much time studying the invisible psychological mechanisms that keep people trapped at specific income levels, watching them sabotage every opportunity to break through. And what I've discovered is darker than most people want to admit. If you're someone who keeps hitting the same financial ceiling no matter how hard you work, or if you've noticed that money seems to slip through your fingers the moment you get ahead, make sure to hit that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up if this helps you out. Because today, we're not talking about budgeting or investing. We're talking about the self-worth ceiling, the invisible force field in your brain that rejects wealth like a body rejects an organ transplant. And it explains why you can't seem to hold on to money no matter how much you make. This is the story of a woman named Jennifer, who went from $45,000 a year to $120,000 in just 3 years through promotions and job changes, and somehow ended up with less savings than when she started. And by the end of this video, you'll understand exactly why your brain is wired to keep you broke, and more importantly, how to rewire it. Here's the thing about wealth that most finance gurus get wrong. They tell you that building wealth is about discipline and smart money moves. They say things like, just save 20% of your income, or invest early and let compound interest work, as if wealth was purely a math problem you haven't solved yet. But that advice ignores a fundamental psychological reality. The real issue isn't that you're disciplined or financially illiterate. The real issue is that you have an internal thermostat for how much wealth you believe you deserve, and your unconscious mind will do everything in its power to keep you at that temperature. This brings us to a concept known as upper limit problem. It comes from psychologist Gay Hendricks, who spent decades studying why successful people self-sabotage. The theory goes like this. Every person has an unconscious limit on how much success, wealth, love, and happiness they'll allow themselves to experience. When they exceed that limit, even by a little, their unconscious mind creates problems to bring them back down to their comfort zone. It's not that you don't want more money, it's that at a deep unconscious level, you don't believe you deserve it, so your brain manufactures ways to get rid of it. You might be thinking, okay, Alex, that's a nice theory about psychology, but how does this apply to me? It applies to you every single day. Every time you get a raise and immediately increase your spending. Every time you pay off a credit card and then max it out again within months. Every time you start building savings and then create an emergency that depletes it. That's not bad luck. That's your self-worth ceiling at work. Before we talk about the system, let's talk about what you believe about yourself. Because right now, you're operating on invisible scripts, stories you've been telling yourself about money that you don't even realize are running in the background. When you spend your bonus within a week, you're not just making a decision, you're acting out a belief. The belief that having money makes you selfish or greedy, or means you're forgetting where you came from. When you avoid looking at your bank account, you're reinforcing the story that you're just someone who isn't good with money and never will be. These are called money scripts, and most people are running on the same three. I'm not good with money, people like me don't become wealthy, and if I have too much, I'll lose myself. Notice what you just felt when I said that. If you felt defensive, that's not an accident. That's the belief protecting itself. Because if you're not good with money, then you don't have to be responsible for changing. If people like you don't become wealthy, then you have permission to stay exactly where you are. The first step isn't changing what you do, it's seeing what you believe. Because you can't fix a problem you don't know exists. Now here's the thing I need you to understand. This isn't just about you being self-destructive. This is about how your brain learned to keep you safe in an environment that punished standing out. Let me take you back to your childhood. This is when your financial thermostat got set. If you grew up in a household where money was tight, you learned something crucial. Scarcity is normal. Abundance is the exception. Your brain created a comfort zone around having just enough or not quite enough. That became your baseline. Here's what happened, and more importantly, here's what you told yourself it meant. When you saw your parents stress about money, work multiple jobs, sacrifice their needs, you didn't just observe poverty. You absorbed the message that suffering is what love looks like, that struggle builds character, that people who have money must have taken it from someone else. The system changed, and your beliefs about what's possible changed with it. Your parents might have climbed out of poverty, or maybe they didn't. But either way, you internalized a set point, and your brain now defends that set point like it's your identity. Let's look at how this plays out today. Meet Marcus. He's 32, works in tech sales, just got promoted. His salary jumped from $65,000 to $95,000. That's a $30,000 raise. Life-changing money, right? Within 6 months, he's making payments on a new BMW he didn't need, living in an apartment that costs $800 more per month, and buying rounds at the bar every weekend to just celebrate. His checking account looks identical to when he made $65,000. His savings? Still at zero. Now, meet Sarah. She's 38, same raise situation, $65K to $95K. But Sarah grew up in a house where having savings was considered hoarding. Her parents spent every dollar, believing you should live while you're alive. When Sarah builds up $15,000 in savings, the most she's ever had, she starts feeling anxious. The money feels wrong, like stolen goods. Within 2 months, she's planned an expensive trip, bought a new laptop she didn't need, and loaned $3,000 to a friend who won't pay it back. Back to zero. Notice what these examples have in common. In each case, the person hit their self-worth ceiling, and their unconscious mind found creative ways to bring them back down. This isn't coincidence. This is the psychological thermostat defending its set point. But before we go further, we need to talk about something most finance people won't tell you, something uncomfortable. This isn't just about changing your behavior. This is about changing who you think you are.
Right now, you have an identity built around being someone who struggles with money. And that identity's comfortable even if it's painful. If you grew up working class, you learn that people like you don't get to be wealthy, that wanting wealth is selfish, that rich people are corrupt or shallow or forgot where they came from. If you come from a middle-class background, you learn that you should look successful but never be flashy. You learn to perform wealth while staying anxious underneath. You learn that visible struggle is unseemly, but actual wealth is suspicious. Here's what nobody tells you about building real wealth. You don't just gain money, you lose an identity, and that's terrifying. To become someone who builds wealth, you'd have to stop being someone who bonds with friends over being broke. You'd have to stop saying, "I can't afford it," as a reflex answer. You'd have to stop believing that poverty is humility and wealth is arrogance. You'd have to stop using your financial struggle as protection from having to take risks. And here's the part that keeps people trapped. If you change, your people might not understand. Your family might say you've changed, that you're not the same person. Your friends might make comments about you being too good for us now. Success doesn't feel like winning, it feels like betrayal. Notice what you just felt when I said that. If your chest got tight, if you felt resistance, if you started thinking, "But my situation is different," that's not logic talking, that's identity protecting itself. This brings us to the psychological trap that keeps this whole system running. Psychologists call this cognitive dissonance, but I call it the worthiness gap. Here's how it works. Your brain is wired to keep your beliefs consistent with your reality. When you receive money that exceeds your internal set point, you're not making a choice to spend it. You're running a program that was installed when you were 6 years old watching your mom cry over bills. Or when you were 12 and your dad said, "We're not like those rich people." Or when you were 15 and learned that wanting more made you selfish. Let me show you the exact sequence. You receive extra money, a bonus, a gift, or a raise. Your brain says, "This isn't normal, something's wrong. You don't usually have this much." You feel anxiety disguised as excitement. You do something to get rid of the discomfort, buy something, lend money, create an emergency. which creates the outcome of being back at your normal level, which confirms your original belief that you're not someone who has money, and the loop tightens. The trap is designed perfectly because every time you sabotage yourself, you're collecting evidence that your limiting belief is true. You're not weak, you're trapped in a self-fulfilling prophecy where your brain manufactures the exact reality it expects. And here's where it gets really dark. Even when people escape, most of them come back. You have a financial thermostat, a set point for how much money you're comfortable having. If you have more than that set point, your unconscious mind will find ways to get rid of it. If you have less, you'll scramble to get back to it. This is why 70% of lottery winners are broke within 5 years. This is why people who inherit money often lose it within a decade. It's not that they're stupid, it's that they have a thermostat set to $5,000 in the bank and suddenly they have $500,000. The psychological discomfort is unbearable. Your poverty isn't just about dollars, it's about identity comfort. Being at your current income level is painful, but it's familiar. You know the rules. You know who you are in that context. Having significantly more money would require you to learn new rules, to become someone you don't know yet, and your brain resists the unknown more than it resists pain. If you're getting defensive right now, that's information. That resistance you're feeling, that's the pattern protecting itself. Now let's talk about what this actually looks like in the real world versus what you think it looks like. Meet Jason. From the outside, he looks successful. Nice clothes, leased luxury car, expensive watch, always picking up the tab at dinner. Everyone thinks he's crushing it financially. But here's the reality. Jason makes $85,000 a year and has $47,000 in consumer debt. His credit cards are maxed out. He's 2 months behind on his car payment. He spends 85% of his income maintaining the performance of wealth. Now meet Linda. From the outside, unremarkable. She drives a 2015 Toyota. She shops at regular stores. Her apartment is nice, but nothing special. Everyone thinks she's doing fine, nothing more. But here's the reality. Linda makes $70,000, has $180,000 in investments, 0 debt, and could stop working for 2 years without financial stress. The reason you can't see the difference is because we're trained to read wealth through visible consumption. We see the car, the clothes, the lifestyle, and assume that means money. But real wealth is invisible. It's money you don't spend. It's options you don't talk about. It's security you don't broadcast. Jason isn't rich, he's performing rich, and the performance costs him 85% of his income. He's trapped maintaining an image that's bankrupting him. And why? Because his self-worth ceiling says people who look poor are losers, so he'd rather be broke than look ordinary. Look around your own life. How many people do you know who drive nice cars but panic over a $500 emergency? How many people look unremarkable but are actually building real wealth? You've been reading the wrong signals your entire life. Let's map out exactly how one seemingly small decision destroys your financial life. It starts with accepting the belief that you deserve to treat yourself every time you have extra money. That seems harmless, right? It's just self-care. You work hard, you deserve nice things. But here's what actually happens. Within 24 hours of receiving extra money, you start browsing. You justify a purchase. I've been wanting this. I need this for work. It's on sale. Within 1 week, you've made the purchase. You feel good, temporarily, but your brain has reinforced the pattern. Extra money equals spend immediately. Within 1 month, you've made 3 more impulse purchases, each one justified in the moment. Your extra money is gone. Within 6 months, you're back to living paycheck to paycheck, wondering where all the money went. But we're not done. Because that initial belief, I deserve to treat myself with extra money, didn't just cost you the money you spent. It cost you the $30,000 that money could have become in 5 years if invested. It cost you the psychological security of having savings. It cost you the identity shift that happens when you prove to yourself you can build wealth. It cost you the compound interest that money would have generated over decades. So that treat-yourself purchase that cost $500, the real price tag is $45,000 over 20 years and your entire financial identity. Notice what you just felt when I showed you that math. That sinking feeling, that's awareness breaking through denial. So how do we break this? How do we step out of a pattern that's been running your entire life? It starts with understanding that this isn't a money problem. This is an identity problem. Right now, you operate from the identity of someone who struggles with money, or I'm not good at saving, or just likes to enjoy life. You are someone who sees extra money as a chance to spend, who feels uncomfortable with savings, who treats financial planning as a future version's problem. To build actual wealth, you need to become someone who sees money as a tool for freedom, who feels calm with growing savings, who makes decisions with their future self in mind. This isn't about faking it. This is about fundamentally rewiring how you see yourself in relationship to money. Let me show you the difference. Consumer identity sees money as something to spend, asks, can I afford the monthly payment, values looking successful, feels entitled to lifestyle upgrades, believes they deserve to treat themselves, measures success by what they own, feels anxious when not spending, bonds with others over purchases. Builder identity sees money as something to deploy for freedom, asks, what is the total cost over 5 years, values actual security over appearance, willing to delay gratification, believes they deserve financial peace, measures success by options available, feels calm when savings grow, bonds with others over goals and values. Here's what's wild. These could be the same person, same income, same background, same opportunities. The only difference is the story they're telling themselves about who they are and what money is for. Let me tell you about Maria. She's 29, teacher, making $52,000. The before, every paycheck, Maria would spend the first few days treating herself. I work so hard with these kids, I deserve something nice. New clothes, expensive coffee, dinners out. Her self-talk was, I'll never be rich anyway, might as well enjoy it. She had $200 in savings and $8,000 in credit card debt. She believed people like her, teachers from working-class families, don't get to be wealthy. The turning point. Her car broke down, $1,200 repair she couldn't afford. She had to borrow from her parents, something she swore she'd never do again. Sitting in her childhood bedroom asking for money at 29, something cracked. Not the situation itself, but her story about it. She realized she'd been playing out her mother's script: work hard, struggle, repeat.
The after. Maria started calling herself someone who builds security. Small shift, massive difference. New clothes? I'm someone who builds security. I don't need that. Expensive dinner? I'm someone who builds security. I can cook. She put $400 per month into savings, money that used to vanish. 2 years later, she has $9,600 in savings, zero credit card debt, and most importantly, she no longer identifies as someone who struggles with money. The money didn't change first, the identity changed first. She stopped being someone who used spending as emotional regulation and started being someone who used money as a freedom tool. The money was just a side effect of the identity shift. Now, when most people learn this information, here's what they do, and I need you to understand why this doesn't work. They hear this and think, okay, I'll just stop spending money on stuff I don't need. They'll delete shopping apps, they'll make a strict budget, they'll commit to a 30-day no-spend challenge, and it lasts about 2 weeks. Then they're right back where they started. Why? Because they tried to change the behavior without changing the identity. They're trying to use discipline to override their programming, and willpower doesn't work long-term. You can white-knuckle your way through not spending for a while, but eventually you'll revert to your set point. Then they feel like failures. They use the relapse as evidence that they're just not good with money, and the pattern gets stronger. The right approach isn't to fight your identity, it's to rebuild it. Here's how you actually break free. And I'm warning you, this requires more than just a budget. This requires becoming someone new. Strategy 1. The tactic. Every time you receive money, paycheck, bonus, gift, tax refund, automatically move 25% to a savings account you don't touch. Not later, not if there's extra. Automatically first thing. The identity shift. To do this consistently, you need to become someone who pays themselves first, someone who views their future self as important as their current self. The mental resistance, you will feel like you're depriving yourself.
Your brain will say, but you need that money for bills, or what if there's an emergency? The countermove, when that happens, recognize it's the old identity trying to survive. Say to yourself, I am someone who prioritizes my future security. I can adjust my spending, not my saving. Thought pattern of people who succeed? They think, my future self deserves this security. They tell themselves, every dollar saved is buying my freedom. Strategy 2. The tactic. Track every single purchase over $20 for 30 days. Write down what you bought, how much it cost, and critically, what emotion you were trying to satisfy. The identity shift. This requires you to stop being someone who spends unconsciously and start being someone who understands their patterns. The mental resistance? You'll want to skip days. You'll justify not tracking small purchases. You'll justify it by thinking, I don't need to track everything. I know where my money goes. The countermove, when you feel resistance to tracking, that's the exact moment to track harder. That resistance is showing you where your blind spots are. Warning signs, the old pattern is creeping back. You notice yourself forgetting to track purchases. You start thinking, I'll track it later. You feel annoyed by the tracking process instead of curious about what it reveals. Strategy 3. The tactic. Before any purchase over $50, wait 48 hours. During that time, calculate what that money would become if invested. Multiply the amount by 7.5 to see its value in 20 years at average market returns. The identity shift. You're becoming someone who sees the real cost of purchases, not just the price tag. The social pressure. People will think you're cheap. Your friends will say, just buy it, you deserve it. Your family might say, you're being obsessive. How to handle it? Say, I'm making different choices now because my goals changed. You don't owe anyone an explanation for prioritizing your future. But none of these tactics work without this foundation. You must decide that building wealth is part of your identity, not something you do when it's convenient. This means viewing yourself as a builder every single day. Not once, not when you feel like it, every single day. Think of yourself as an architect of your financial future. An architect doesn't look at a blueprint and say, I'll build this if I feel like it. They build methodically, piece by piece, whether they feel like it or not. When a sale happens, they don't abandon their plans. They stay focused. You're not trying to be perfect. You're trying to become someone for whom building wealth is as natural as breathing. Look, here's what this is really about. This isn't about having a bigger number in your bank account. This is about becoming someone who refuses to live at the mercy of unconscious programming installed when you were too young to question it. Money is just a tool. The real prize is agency, the ability to make choices based on what you want, not what fear tells you is safe. You have a choice right now. You can keep being someone who sabotages every bit of financial progress. That's comfortable. That's familiar. Your identity stays intact. Your relationships stay the same. And you get to keep the story that explains why you're broke. Or you can make the uncomfortable decision to become someone who builds wealth regardless of how weird it feels at first. If you stay the same, here's what the next 5 years looks like. You'll get raises, the money will disappear. You'll make the same promises to yourself about doing better. You'll have the same amount of savings you have right now, maybe less. You'll still be living paycheck to paycheck, still anxious about money, still wondering why it never clicks. If you change, here's what becomes possible. In 5 years, you could have $30,000 in savings. You could have zero consumer debt. You could make financial decisions from calm instead of panic. You could stop performing wealth and start building it. Most importantly, you could stop being at war with yourself every time you get money. The system wants you to stay broke. It profits from you believing that your current situation is permanent, that people like you don't build wealth, that financial security is for other people. When you break your self-worth ceiling, you're not just building your savings, you're refusing to play a rigged game where your own brain is the house and the house always wins. You are not a victim. You're not broken. You're not bad with money. You're someone who learned a set of beliefs about what you deserve, and those beliefs are running a program that keeps you broke, and now you're choosing to learn new beliefs. That's not weakness, that's the most powerful thing you can do. Here's what I want you to do right now. Not later, not when you feel ready, right now. Open your Notes app, write one sentence: I am someone who builds wealth. That's it. Don't write a whole plan, don't make an elaborate budget, just claim that identity. If this video made you uncomfortable, if it pissed you off, if it made you want to argue, if it made something click, comment below, I'm rebuilding my ceiling. Because doing that is practicing the new identity. You're becoming someone who admits the pattern exists and commits to changing it. If you want to go deeper on breaking financial self-sabotage, check out my video on the 2-income trap, where I break down the systemic reasons this is harder than ever. Remember, your self-worth ceiling isn't permanent. It's just a story you've been telling yourself. Don't stay broke to keep your identity comfortable. Be brave enough to become someone new. I'll see you in the next one.